We are live.
Yeah, YouTube is so easy. I wish everything was as easy as YouTube.
Right? We are live.
Yeah, YouTube is so easy. Hey, turns out, here we go. We are
Here we go.
with episode 34. Is that where we're at?
3-4, baby.
3-4 of the Almost Daily Show. We're holding strong, keeping it almost daily. You got your handsome duo, Chandler Walker and
The Dave Picardi.
Here to host this episode of the Almost Daily Show. We actually have a pretty good following we're building right now. Our podcast is progressively growing up. So I think last month what have we been doing this for? Like 2 months now?
Somewhere around there.
And we're up to about 150 downloads.
Nice.
Oh, it's not even the end of the month yet, and it looks like we're going to make it to that 200 mark, which is going to be 50 more downloads than our previous month.
I like it. So in order to have us keep going with this, make sure you share this to your networks and tell people about us.
Yeah, if we give you good information, just share it out or throw it in forums and stuff like that if it's something that helped you out. And then we would appreciate it because we love everybody. Even if you don't, we still love you.
That's right. So we have a good one today. We're talking about going back to your original process. Like, what do you do well in your business, and making sure that you don't forget about that, and you go back and you relook at it. Always look on improving it, and not just status quoing it and saying we built it and then we move on to other things. You always want to go back and make sure that what you're doing is staying relevant, and you're able to attach modern technologies to it, better ideas, and constantly provide better value to your clients.
Exactly. When you look at it, a lot of the time we put out our processes and our efficiencies and our things that we need to accomplish, and we make it like a one-off. So you put it out and you never look at it again. And then it just becomes this standard process that runs, or like a lot of small businesses, they just lose it and never do it again. But what we want to get in the habit of is putting out a process, establishing that process works, reevaluating that process to make sure we're constantly improving and adjusting and modifying. And if you don't have that reevaluation component to it, you're never actually going to improve those processes. And if you never improve the processes, you're just going to have these things where you've always done it this way. And you never actually get better at the processes. You never make them more efficient. You never get feedback off your employees, and you never really grow and make them better.
Right. And I think this is where businesses get into big trouble is, they have something that works and it worked well. And maybe maybe that's how they made their bones in the business and they grew and things were good. But ultimately every business, if they're doing well, has some sort of a feedback loop where you're asking your, say, employees or clients how things are working, any suggestions they have. And ultimately, anytime they make suggestions or give you feedback that you consider, adjusting your system around, it changes everything, right? So now you can't just add one thing. You really need to go back and look at the whole thing and see how this one change affects everything. Right, and make sure it's always about improving and providing value and experience to your client base, and not just making changes to make changes. And we just see that a lot. Businesses don't really realize something's wrong until it shows in their bank account and something's really wrong.
Yeah, that's pretty common that we see. Everything's fine and dandy and it's all sunshine and rainbows until like you were saying, the finances dip. Then once the finances dip, all of a sudden we have to go into crisis mode and fix and save everything. But what businesses generally don't learn is they don't go back and reevaluate why they went into crisis mode, what processes weren't working, what wasn't in order, what didn't make sense at that point in time, and then how do we fix that? And so they just go from a high point to a low point, a high point to a low point. And there's never an actual fundamental piece where they're just moving along a straight line, or at least a slightly squiggly line. So they end up on this roller coaster. I saw this concept a while back that I thought was really good, and we started doing it quite a bit with our processes, especially in the gym. It's you take one process a month, and the lowest level employees have to start using that process, and they have to pick it apart and find a way to improve it. And so that way, what happens is the lowest level employees, who are generally the people on the front lines who experience and see everything, are actively participating in improving those processes. And it can be the smallest process that they pick for the month in the entire company, or a pretty large process they want to jump into. But it gives you the ability to look at their feedback and have them analyze what's going on, and then you improve processes that way from the bottom up.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I think that's what makes good businesses successful, and I think that ultimately is what probably makes most businesses fail. Every business that starts usually has something that they're good at, that it's built around an idea. So if you actually get any ground, it's probably because that idea held some weight and everything. And but I like that idea of going back and making sure the team rehashes processes constantly. Yeah. I think that's a sound business practice.
It works really well. And if your team is involved in that, and if your team likes it and they're actually doing it, you get a pretty cool process efficiency mindset. So everybody has to pick something, and they have to figure out what could be better about it and what they can adjust and modify and make different and change. And then that's how you come out with like new ideas and new strategies, and that's how you really get the creative juices flowing in the people in your company, because they're forced to think outside the box and they'll say, okay, we've been doing this for a long time. How can we adjust and modify it so it could be just a little bit better?
Yeah. And a lot of really successful businesses are successful because they find the right people that put in the extra effort. And a lot of the times it needs to be taught and habit building to get that effort. And to get a whole team built around you that focuses on improving processes and paying attention enough to identify when something maybe isn't quite right, or when they can improve it. Because a lot of the times you put process together, it's like, here's the process. That doesn't mean you're really good at the whole process. You just know you have to do it. And so when you get back in, it's like take the opportunity to improve each piece and then go back through and improve each piece and attach that to everybody that works in the business. I think it's a great habit on a monthly basis.
Yeah, exactly. The whole goal in most organizations, from small to large, is to make sure that those processes are there and that they're constantly improved on. And the biggest piece of feedback you can get is from the people who experience what's happened on the front lines. And so if we're constantly figuring out ways and trying to understand and find ways to improve those processes, we're always going to be kind of moving in the right direction. And even if you do go into crisis mode, now you say, okay, let's critically analyze what happened. Why did we run out of money? Why did our marketing not work that month? Why did sales take a dump? What happened? What did we do wrong, and what processes can be improved?
Yeah. So there's another, I think, concept or principle to apply when you're looking at improving processes. And, the feedback loop's about listening. And I think a mistake that is made a lot is people don't listen. They always try to figure out how to get the client to understand their process and what they're trying to tell them, instead of looking at it from a client's eyes and saying, how do I make sure that my process and how I'm communicating what I'm doing to the client actually works for the client, right? It needs to be done in a way that they understand, and maybe there's a process that clients and customers do better in.
Yeah, that's a good point. More often than not, we find that, especially in a customer-centric business model, or some people are calling it customer-driven now, what we look at is, it's like you're saying, it's a two-way street. So you have to put out processes, but you also have to understand how the processes are being communicated and what that communication looks like to the people who are consuming it. So do they like it? Right. Do they understand it? Do they have no idea what's going on? We need to take that feedback and use that as like a customer-driven philosophy to improve processes as well. So they said this. Okay, so let's figure out why they said this. It's not because they don't understand or something, it's because we didn't communicate it effectively. And if we can't communicate effectively, right, we're ultimately not going to build a very good business, because people are going to be upset with us because they don't understand. When people don't understand, the major emotion is anger or fear, so they don't want to participate in it.
Right. Good stuff, Chan. So if anybody listens to this and has any questions or thoughts or comments, please drop them in the comment section, and we'd love to keep the conversation going.
Exactly. we're always looking for questions. And if you've got a solid question for a show, just shoot it over to us, and we'll devote a whole show to it.
Yeah.
Because
and if you have some, special concept that you want to actually come on the show and talk about, we'd love to have you on the show.
And it doesn't matter who you are. Some people just want the high-level guests, but we want everybody to jump on here and talk with us about what they're doing. And if we have someone who wants us to work with processes like live, we'll do that too. So shoot us, post in the comments if you want to work with us, or if you have questions or anything like that. Or if you want to be a guest, you can email us at hello@ootcmedia.com.
Excellent. Have a good show, Jay.
Good times. Until tomorrow, perhaps. We will see.
Maybe.
We're not quite sure.
Not sure.
See ya.